everybody, and welcome to the Careers with STEM webinar on future energy specialists. I'm joining you today from Gadigal country of the Eora Nation, and I would like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land from which I'm joining today and which everybody else is joining us too. Australia's First Nations people are our first scientists, first engineers, and first innovators, and I pay my respects to their elders past, present, and emerging. So today, STEM careers are in huge demand and new areas are emerging all of the time, but you might not be aware of the different study paths that you can use to get there. Today, we're going to be joined by some inspiring STEM professionals working in future energy, and what an exciting area to be working in right now as we face these continued challenges of climate change and transitioning to renewable energy. I'd like to invite you, if you're joining us live, to please ask some questions of our STEM professionals as they join us. You can use the chat function or the Q&A at the bottom of this screen. And I would like to finally acknowledge our sponsor for this session, QUT, Queensland University of Technology. So let's jump in. So thank you to our sponsor, and great to be having everyone join us today. We're shortly going to be joined by an awesome panel of STEM professionals. Today's panel includes Associate Professor Deepak Dubal from QUT, Stephen Bondio, who's lead engineer at Oricon, and Eliza who is a PhD student who's studying in renewable energy space. So first, a little bit about me. I'm the founder of Careers with STEM. My name is Heather Catchpole. I love dogs, I love sushi, and I actually studied as a geologist. Since then, I've gone on to found Careers with STEM and work across a whole bunch of areas, working with companies from Google, making virtual reality tours of nuclear reactor and doing a whole bunch of things in this STEM space. So STEM can lead you to all sorts of different areas. 8 years ago, I founded Careers with STEM, which is a hub which includes a quarterly magazine, posters, videos, events, webinars, professional development for teachers, quizzes, and a website that reaches over 1 million students every year, helping to inspire people about the possibilities of STEM careers. Each quarter, we produce a magazine on a different STEM area: science, technology, engineering, and maths, plus special editions like data science and cybersecurity. At Careers with STEM, we believe that everybody could have access to an equal access to a better future. Many of tomorrow's careers will combine STEM skills with other areas. We call it STEM plus X, like technology plus fashion equals smart sports uniforms for Olympians, or science plus social change equals solutions for climate change. STEM jobs are growing twice as fast as other jobs, but enrolments in STEM is not growing as fast and even declining, especially for women and minorities. And we'd like to change that. You can find all of the information about this webinar in our latest job kit. Job kits include deep dives into specific career areas, including salary and job growth information, real life profiles, and first steps and study paths. You can explore trending career areas such as data scientist, future cities shaper, space and defence specialist, or robotics and automation engineers. So for today's topic, we're going to look at future energy. What a huge and interesting challenge space to work in. To get to net zero emissions by 2050 and limit the spiralling effects of global warming, we need to do a complete turnaround on the way that we generate and use energy. The International Energy Agency, which is a fairly conservative body, in their report from 2021 says that this means we need to do 3 fundamental things. 1, from today, no new investment in fossil fuel supply projects. 2, by 2035, no sales of internal combustion engine passenger vehicles. And 3, by 2040, the global electricity sector needs to have already reached zero emissions. So what's the good news? Well, the good news is we have the resources to do this already. A report in the journal Science says that the stabilisation of the climate will require an additional 15 terawatts of emissions-free power or renewable energy by 2050. If we were able to harness all of the globally available renewable energy sources today, here's what we'd have: 600 terawatts of solar, half a terawatt from hydroelectricity, 12 terawatts from geothermal energy, 2 to 4 from wind power, and 2 from tides and currents. There's also emerging technology that's such as hydrogen, which is just such big news right now, and new storage technologies which are being developed, including battery technologies that can transform the way we use energy, from electric cars to our phones, and smarter ways to use energy close to the source. So how do we harness these renewable clean energy resources? We need to find ways to extract, store, and recycle that energy. That's the job of a future energy specialist, to find those solutions. For example, we can extract an amazing amount of energy from solar, and the solar cells that generate this energy are getting better and better all of the time. But we also need to find ways to store and distribute that energy. That could mean new types of batteries, microgrids, smart grids that deal with fluctuations in energy supply, or converting solar energy into a new type of electricity. For example, using solar energy to split water to create hydrogen and oxygen, and using hydrogen in fuel cells or other technologies. If you want to work in the energy sector, you don't have to have a specific degree. Engineering, science, physics, chemistry, nanomaterial specializations, they're all great study pathways. You could also work on the social aspects of renewable energy adoption: policy, government, law, ethics, data science, and so much more. Future energy specialists are no one person. It's a contributing team. Everybody needs to have a proper understanding of their energy, how a material is going to store that energy, and how it's going to distribute the energy. And there's no limit as to where we can extract energy, as we've seen, from the sun, from motion, sea waves, anything that builds heat. Whatever we are doing every day that can be converted into some form of electricity could become an energy source. For example, research shows that wave energy could contribute up to 11% of Australia's energy mix. That's enough to power a city the size of Melbourne, making it a strong contender for Australia's renewable energy mix. Scientists are already working on developing energy power plants from wave energy that float on the ocean. Careers as an energy specialist are really varied and interesting, as we'll find out, and there's a huge demand for talent. Australia is at the forefront with sustainable energy renewable resources and progressing fast. We already spend billions of dollars mining many minerals to produce batteries, which will be really important for powering our future. Think electric cars, mobile phones, computers, they're all powered by batteries. QUT is one of the core participants in the Australian Government's Future Battery Industries Cooperative Research Centre, an initiative set up to encourage exploration and development for sustainable energy between industry, researchers, government, and the community. QUT's postgrads and PhD students get to work on projects for the CRC on campus while developing technology for industry. There are also many different paths into careers in energy. You can work in fundamental physics and chemistry research in science, in engineering research, or as an engineer. You can study computer science or IT and work on smart systems to help us use the energy more effectively, or you can work on policy, communications, and social research. Being a future energy specialist means you're part of the bigger picture. Plenty of roles are required to come together to consider what it takes to create energy, tapping into that and then figuring out exactly what to do with it. There are so many careers that need to all work together to create a more sustainable energy future. Think materials engineers, civil engineers, electrical engineers, chemists, physicists, process engineers, battery manufacturers, and mathematicians. We need everybody's expertise. So what could you earn in these careers? Well, salaries are excellent, topping out at about $150,000 a year for a physicist or $124,000 a year for an electrical engineer. So what can you do right now to get into this career area? If you're in high school, science and maths for starters, but also commerce, design technologies, media, and communications are all great skills. Think about looking for a hackathon or a cross-curriculum project that incorporates your passion for renewable energy. If you're about to go into uni, there are heaps of paths and degrees that can get you there. Consider degrees in science, engineering, computer science, and data specializations, to name just a few. To find out more about these paths and life as a future energy specialist, let's ask a panel of STEM professionals standing by. So please get your questions ready. Today's panel includes Associate Professor Deepak Dubal from QUT, Stephen Bondio, Lead Engineer in Future Energy at Oricon, and PhD student Eliza. Dr. Deepak Dubal is the Associate Professor and Australian Future Fellow at QUT and has a strong research background in the field of nanomaterials for clean energy conversion and storage systems. Deepak's research interest is focused on designing and engineering of functional materials for energy storage and applications with special emphasis on supercapacitors, lithium-ion batteries, and beyond. At QUT, his research is to develop an integrated system as a self-charging power source for wearable electronics and implantable medical devices. Before joining QUT, Deepak worked as Vice-Chancellor Fellow at the School of Chemical Engineering in the University of Adelaide. So I'd like to invite Deepak to join us now. And
hello, Heather, and hello, everyone.
Hi, Deepak. Thanks so much for joining us. So we kind of covered quite a lot of renewable energy discussion there. What do you think are the kind of important focus for Australia, for renewable energy in Australia?
Okay, so geographically, okay, hello everyone. First of all, I'm Assistant Professor Deepak Dubal, and thank you, Heather, for inviting and for introducing, giving me an opportunity to talk to the high school students and tell them about the opportunities what we have in Australia. So basically, if you see geographically, Australia is the best country where you will have most of the sunlight. So this is one of the continent one of the geographic area where we have the most of the times in a year we normally have the sunlight. So that is the reason solar cells which can be used as an extraction of energy. That has already discuss a lot of different energy storage, energy conversion or energy extraction systems. So solar cell is one of them, but in addition to that, the one which we are working in our group is one of the technology which might be very much useful for the Australia is extracting energy from natural processes. So what do you think? What do you think that, okay, so everybody knows about the solar, everybody knows about the wind power stations, but do you know anyone like there is another source of energy from where we can extract energy? So, and that is around us and we are ignoring it, see it from thousands of years. And that is the natural processes. What does it mean by non-natural processes is, for example, can we extract energy from the sea waves? So we have a very big sea around all around Australia. So we are kind of on a coastal country. So do you think that we can extract the energy from the sea waves in addition to the solar? And is there any way that we can extract energy from the body motions, the human body motions? We also can extract the energy from the human body motions, which can be used for particular kind of applications, for instance, like a wearable or medical implantable devices. That's what we are doing at QUT. So there is a huge scope for the energy extraction, and there are a lot of opportunities in Australia about renewable energy. I would also touch one more important aspect what Heather has already mentioned is about the lithium-ion batteries. So that is one of the very interesting sector where the students can think about in the next 5 to 10 years. We are going to have a huge opportunities in Australia. The reason for that is we have a really great resources or the minerals which are really important to manufacture the batteries. So the main component which we need to manufacture the batteries is the lithium, and only 3 major places or major geographical areas they have is like one of them is Australia, then China, and then Latin America. So Chile and Argentina. So these are the only few countries they have the biggest resources of the lithium. So Australia would be the great place if we could start to manufacture, and we have already started to manufacture batteries in Australia. So that that sector, the lithium and battery manufacturing, and then the related applications, like for example electric vehicles, and then the other kind of energy storage system. So I would say that we are going to have a really very big job opportunities in terms of these lithium and battery manufacturing or renewable energy storage systems.
Yeah, that's so true. Batteries is just a huge area, isn't it, of renewable energy resource. And I love what you're saying about the fact that Australia has such huge natural resources, because we think about ourselves as somewhere with natural resources of fossil fuels, but in fact we have amazing natural resources of solar energy and critical minerals as well. And I guess we could add geologists to one of those many pathways, which is important in our renewable energy future. What are the kind of careers that you see your students going into? What are the sort of career possibilities for people who are studying in future energy?
Okay, so there are, it's very general question, but I would try to connect the, I will try to connect this with the research, what we are doing at QUT. So first, let's take an example of the battery manufacturing. So if it's not only about the manufacturing of cells. So what we need is first like to extract that minerals from the mines. So we need a mining engineers, we really need a material scientist, and we really need the people who can actually, we need a chemist to develop that kind of precursors or the chemicals like which are required for the battery manufacturing. Then we also need a physicist. Okay, so to understand that what exactly the physical mechanism or what is happening into the batteries. Then we also need then electrical engineers. So why? Because batteries are not batteries they doesn't go alone. So we don't use a single cell into the electric vehicles. So what we do is we collect like thousands of cells together. We made a module, and then we implement that modules into the electric vehicles. So we really need an electrical engineers who can actually develop that electrical circuits. So our battery management system, that is what we call as a BMS. So we need that battery manufacturing system. But then another opportunity which is really evolving very fast in Australia is recycling of lithium ion batteries, which is really very poorly understood. So when I started to work on the battery recycling project, what I realized is we really don't have the proper legislations. We don't have a laws, or we don't have like the way we handle the batteries, the way we sort the batteries, or the way we manage this waste. So we really need a proper legislation. So we need a lawyers or laws. They can actually make something. Okay, so they will tell you that, okay, how to handle these batteries. Okay, we still don't have like proper waste management systems. For example, we are still putting the batteries into the municipal waste. So, but that is not the proper way. We can't put the batteries because they can explode at any point. So when we started to work on this battery recycling project, we really realized like, okay, so there is a huge gap. It's not only about just a crushing engineering part, just a mechanically crushing the batteries and putting it somewhere. We really need several sectors we need to touch. So there are huge opportunities in battery recycling, and that is one of the very big market is going to be everywhere. One of the legislations Australian government recently implemented, that whoever is going to manufacture a battery, they are going to take a responsibility of the recycling. So that is another. So this is one of the very important job opportunities for all the students in next 5 to 10 years of the time.
Fantastic. And I think we have an expert who can talk about those kind of organizational challenges coming up next. It's so fascinating to hear about that kind of diversity of careers and diversity of opportunities. Tell me about your own career, Deepak. What did you have to study to get to where you are today? And I love that you're working working in renewable energy, but with medical devices as well. So what was your career path?
Okay, so I did my bachelor's in physics. Okay, so my career is like, if you see the way I came into the science and engineering, it's really very much different. my basic background is physics. So I'm basically a physicist. So I learned everything in the physics, like my bachelor's and then master's. During my PhD, I switched it from physics to the material scientist. So I started to work on the materials, but I definitely use my background in the physics. So I started to do a chemistry and material science. So we were using a chemical methods to develop a materials, but to analyze the materials, we have to go back and we have to use the physics, or the physical characterizations. So this is a combination of everything. Then if you look at my final application, which we are trying, is the capacitors or the batteries or the engineering. So then it comes to the engineering part. So is a full a combination of everything. So it doesn't have, you doesn't need to have a specific discipline or specific study to enter in this particular career. So my basic background was physics, then I did chemistry, material science, and now I'm also doing the engineering. I would like to touch the part which you said, you mentioned about the medical devices. So I don't have a background in the medical science. I don't have background in the biology. I didn't even learn biology or biological sciences during any of my time in the bachelor's or master's. But what we are doing is we are not actually focusing on the biological sciences. What we are focusing is like we are using our expertise to develop a power sources, and we are using that power sources for medical devices. So this is one of the very, very interesting topic we are working on. So just imagine that we as today, if you see around, we are using several different kind of wearable and medical implantable devices. So what does that mean by that? Wearables is like a smart watches, then activity trackers where we can see the like how much calories we burn or how much steps you go. So these all devices, and even the medical devices, for example, like a pacemaker. I always give this example of the pacemaker because it's very easy, it's a bit easy to understand. So pacemaker is inserted inside the body, and it helps heart to get some small amount, small pulses, because some people, they have a problem with having the normal pulse. So this pacemaker, they keep passing a small pulse. But all these devices, if you look, all devices needs a small power source, which is a battery. But for just imagine this pacemaker, after 4 to 5 years, the battery is going to be drained off, is going to expire somehow, or there is no way that we can recharge that battery inside the body. So what we are thinking, would it be possible to develop these electronic devices without a battery? Can we develop a self-powered devices? And that is our next plan for the next 5 to 10 years. So we are trying to develop a self-powered medical devices. So what is mean by self-power is, imagine that if we could develop a material which can convert our breathing vibrations into an electricity, and that can be used to power the pacemaker. So we are working on some very interesting topic, which is called as a triboelectricity, which is nothing but a static electricity. And we are also working on the piezoelectricity. So what these two technologies does is they convert any kind of natural mechanical energy into the electricity. And that electricity can be used into the medical devices. So we are aiming to develop self-powered wearable and medical devices in the future.
That is amazing. And we did say that energy could come from anywhere. So the idea that you could turn your breathing into a type of energy is just fantastic. Deepak, thinking back to high school, did you have any idea that you were going to end up in this career? And what are the sort of steps that you took, or the skills that you had that you think were important for you to take those next steps?
For high school students, what are my I would say the ideal guide would be, if start thinking about like science, what is important is like what actually you want to do or what fascinates you more. In my case, like I was very much fascinated with the like this energy storage systems and how the energy people are generating or using, or how we can extract the energy. So I would recommend to see the career guides, and then we also have some resources at universities that you can just see the university, how these universities are developing a different courses, but that will be a little bit really high level. But my suggestion for the high school student would be take a part into the internship, summer programs, visit universities, see what they are doing, or what the research is going, or how the science is evolving, look at the new technologies coming into the market, or just look at these technologies in from the different perspectives, so that will generate a lot of interest in them, like why these technologies, like, or what exactly is happening. So this kind of things, they can fascinate them to go for that, for this kind of, like, like a STEM career.
Fantastic. Thank you, Deepak. And I'd like to invite you to stick around for the panel session at the end as we join our other STEM professionals. But I'd like to move on now to our next panelist. So Stephen Bondio works at Oricon. He is the lead engineer in future energy there. So Stephen provides key decision makers with clarity on pathways forward with the significant uncertainty of transitioning into the energy market. Hugely complex challenge. He achieves this by overlaying his subject matter expertise of the energy system with the client's current conditions, key risks, and non-negotiables. Stephen's been a trusted advisor to numerous clients, including large energy users, government organisations, state governments, financial institutions, and networks. So his experience has covered leading projects in long-term strategy, decarbonisation, microgrids, distributed energy resources, hydrogen renewal, and thermal power generation, storage networks, and markets. His undergraduate degree at QUT was in civil engineering, but he's then gone on to pursue a master's in energy and resource management at University College London. And he says his background in engineering gave him the analytical know-how to solve problems, while his master's then broadened his knowledge of economics, policy, and energy markets. So thank you, Stephen. Great to have you join us today.
Thanks, Heather. Very happy to be here.
So Stephen, you have a background in engineering, but also economics and policy, which I think is very, very cool, because obviously, as Deepak was saying, these challenges are in research and engineering, but also in kind of creating that change. So how does that background for you help you to think about the big picture of our energy future?
I had a very, very good question to start off with. So I guess I started out in my career as a civil and structural engineer, and so I was working on very specific projects, and it was through the workplace that I started understanding the importance of the entire ecosystem that those projects would go into. And so I wanted to get a bigger picture view of that, and so if we I managed to do that through my master's. And so talking through an example of, I guess, exploring how large and diverse the entire ecosystem is for what an energy project needs to be able to integrate with. So if you were trying to get a solar farm or a wind farm project up, it needs to connect to the network. The network's connected from all the way from Cairns to Adelaide. It needs to operate within a market where it makes money and achieves revenue. It might have relationships with a partner who purchases that energy. And to be able to get that project through, it needs to have agreements in place with property owners. It needs to be accepted by the local community. So there's a very social and environmental aspect there as well. It needs to have lots of legal agreements. And each of these areas are vitally important because the project could fall over in any of them. So if you purely focused on the technology, it's not enough. The best technological solution might not be able to tick all the boxes across the entire ecosystem to get a project up. And so it's vital to provide decision makers a view on all of those different areas so that they're able to have a successful, sustainable project.
So you've kind of gone from working on the sort of nitty-gritty, basics of one challenge to going to how can you work across a huge challenge area like that. So what is it that you sort of hope to achieve through Oricon? What's the goal for the client, like the solar farm or the government organisation? What are you sort of trying to help them? Where are you trying to help them get to?
So working in the energy space at the moment is one of the most exciting areas you could possibly be. Key drivers for that is climate change, and the transition from carbon emitting sources, so oil and gas and coal, to low carbon or no carbon, so renewable resources like solar and wind. And working through that technological change and those waves of innovation and new industries is incredibly exciting. So looking to inform decision makers and clients and helping them build sustainable industries for the future and for Australia and globally, and making a difference in terms of moving to that decarbonised future. And so what does that mean for me personally, and what type of projects? Previously in history, I've worked on decarbonising a university. That was actually the University of Queensland. So securing and helping them build a solar farm and making decisions on where that should be located. I've worked on what was the biggest battery in the world. So that was the Hornsdale Power Reserve, or the Tesla Big Battery in South Australia. So being involved in these groundbreaking, iconic, globally projects, and then looking at projects into the future that we're starting to see is looking at hydrogen export projects. So that's where we capture renewable energy from solar and wind, we convert that into hydrogen from a process called electrolysis, and then we look to convert that into different forms to then export to different countries like Japan and Korea, who are looking for ways to get off using natural gas and fossil fuel based sources. So yes, very many different exciting aspects and being part of that energy transition.
That's so cool. And that actually segs nicely into a question which we've just had come in from Martin, who has a background in geophysics, seismic processing, and he's interested in looking at getting into the energy sector, and has a great question about deciding which would be a kind of more valuable pathway. Data scientist, data analyst, business analyst, computer science, cybersecurity, software engineer, they're all kind of possible parts of that. And he's after a comment about which would be more valuable in terms of future energy technologies, and how he might go working out the answer to this question.
Well, that's a very good question. So making the transition myself, there's always an overlap in terms of your existing skill set and what you have. So in terms of, I work as a consulting engineer, and so I work for different clients and companies, and I was doing that as a civil and structural engineer. So very problem solving based. So there would definitely be obviously a skill set that you already have that you can leverage and move into your transition. And so I was able to use that moving into my role in the future energy team as a lead engineer after completing my master's. In terms of those questions on those different roles, I would probably say it depends where your passion and your curiosity is. All of those different elements will be vital to the energy transition. There's going to be massive skill shortages, and having that passion to apply those different skills in the energy sector alone would probably be sufficient to get you there. And so as we move to more technologically advanced items, like just talking about microgrids for a second, and so having more interconnected devices and smart devices that could potentially interact with the electricity network, massive growth area in terms of data management, data systems, cybersecurity. So all very, very applicable, but depends on how you see you can use your existing skills, and then what you're more curious and passionate to pursue.
Yeah, great answer there, Stephen. Thinking back to, kind of before you got started back in high school, did you have any idea that this would be your area, and what kind of prompted you to get interested in this area in the first place?
So I guess it was quite a journey of discovery over many years for me. I wish I had an opportunity to listen to a call like this and get some better insights in terms of how the world worked and the energy sector worked. For me, it was, I had quite a wide skill set in high school. I was good in my maths and sciences, and my brother, who was already working, thought it would be a good idea for me to be an engineer. I chose civil engineering because at that time I found buildings probably the most impressive and interesting. But it wasn't until my 4th year in my degree where I had the choice to explore a subject where I looked into climate change science, carbon pricing, and clean coal technologies. And that was completely ignited and changed my thinking. And then that set me on the trajectory to moving and doing my Masters of Science in Energy and Resource Management there.
Fantastic. Thanks, Stephen. We'd love to have you join again for the panel at the end, but just thinking more about the specifics of those study paths, we're going to be joined now by Eliza Luca. So I'd love to introduce Eliza, who is actually doing her PhD at the moment at QUT. Eliza is researching the structural integrity of materials used in concentrated solar power plants. She developed an interest in the energy sector and renewable technologies during her time at QUT, where she participated in overseas short-term exchange program on renewable technologies and a vacation research program on the topic of concentrated solar power. These opportunities also allowed her to develop a passion for engineering, which she shares with other high school students and peers through her work as a student ambassador at QUT and a committee member of QUT's Girls in Engineering Making Statements. Upon graduation, Eliza pursued her interest in the energy sector and worked as a technology consulting analyst, where she learned about retail, distribution processes, and market reforms within the energy industry. From these experiences, Eliza gained a better understanding of the energy industry and an appreciation that the step towards more sustainable energy is challenging but necessary. This led her to pursue her PhD on a topic that focuses on advancing renewable energy technology. So thanks, Eliza. Wow, it sounds like you've been willing to take on the big challenges and problems, which is fantastic. Welcome.
Hi, Heather. Yes, absolutely. And thanks for having me here to share my experiences with renewable energy with peers and students.
So tell us about how you first became interested. What was the sort of spark for you that got you interested in this area?
When I was studying engineering, I essentially applied for an engineering tour that was organized by QT. I didn't think I was going to get it at the time, but I'm glad that I kind of bit the bullet anyway, because I was fortunate to be selected. And it took me to Singapore, Norway, and Sweden, where I got to see firsthand a number of really exciting engineering research and meet some industry partners as well. Got to ask a lot of questions. But specifically, I was really excited to learn about the process of battery development for electric vehicles. This kind of sparked my initial interest in other energy alternatives for the future, whether it be for our vehicles or for our homes. So I guess I kind of wanted to learn more about the development of different energy sources from then on. And so I participated in the vacation research program during the summer and later did a short-term exchange in Germany with a focus on renewable energy and technologies. I guess I could just say that my curiosity led me from one thing to another, and 6-7 years down the line, here I am doing research in the field of renewables.
Wow, what an exciting start when you're only just starting out in your career and you've had such an exciting journey already. Tell us about study and, kind of even going back to high school. What did you need to study in year 11 and 12, and what did you need to study when you got to uni to get you to where you are today?
Yeah, so in high school, I did math and science subjects because I kind of wanted to keep my options open across the different areas of university. But at university, I finally selected engineering and later selected a major in mechanical. When I first started my degree, however, I didn't really know what major to choose at all. But luckily in the first year of engineering, you get to try a little bit of everything. So you get an opportunity to explore the different majors and select which one you would like to pursue. I like to think that engineering is a combination of problem solving and creative thinking, which is really critical to tackling the challenges of progressing renewable energy. There are, however, a lot of different kind of study pathways that lead to contributing in the renewable space. because the renewables industry is growing and it will continue to, I guess, grow, meaning there will be more opportunities available and challenges to tackle across different fields, especially in STEM-related roles.
Yeah, brilliant. And I love what you said about your degree. It's so interesting, isn't it, that you have that time to kind of find out what you're interested in engineering, because when we talk about engineering, it encompasses like so much, doesn't it, of that kind of space. And it's so cool that you found that passion for renewable energy. The question every PhD student hates to answer: can you explain what you're doing now for your PhD in 30 words or less?
Yeah, so I'm working essentially to determine the limits of materials used in storage systems for solar energy. So just a bit of context, one of the key disadvantages of electricity generated from the sun is that it's dependent on the sun. So when the sun is out at nighttime or during the day when it's cloudy or rainy, electricity generation is interrupted unless we have some sort of efficient way to storing the sun's energy for later use. The problem with this is that efficient methods to store the sun's energy exposes storage vessels and pipes to extreme environments, meaning high temperatures, high loads, and corrosive environments. This kind of pushes the limits of storage vessels. So we don't really have an accurate way of determining when things will break. So what I do is I get to break things in the lab under these extreme conditions, contrary to the popular engineering belief that engineers fix things. But I do this so I can check the limits of the materials and we can better design these systems to last longer. And of course, the effect of this is over the long run, it can reduce the cost of renewable energies and increase efficiencies as well.
You make it sound so cool and also so important. What a fantastic area to be working on. What advice would you have for high school students or students who are, you know, a little bit further on, who are interested in getting into this career area?
Okay, so for high school students, I want them to understand that the renewables sector is such a diverse field, and working in this area can be quite fast-paced, especially as we're pushing now more than ever for developments in renewable technologies. So in this career, you'll find yourself working with multidisciplinary teams and people with different levels of experience and expertise, as I think Deepak mentioned earlier. So my advice, which is, I guess, applicable both personally and professionally, is to keep an open mind. Different people from different backgrounds and disciplines bring different things to the table. And I would really recommend students to take working with such a diverse group as a continuous learning opportunity. And also I'd encourage them to explore and look for opportunities to go, because renewables is such a diverse field. There is a lot of opportunities and a lot of challenges along the way. So apply for things, apply for that program, even if you have hesitations, apply for experiences, go to industry events, and kind of try to surround yourself with people and opportunities that will enrich your learning, especially in the field of renewables. Let your curiosity kind of lead you a little bit, and surround yourself with people who you're able to learn from, because you'll never know what is about to spark your interest.
Fantastic. I love that. And I'd like to invite the rest of my panelists back now for just one final question, because we've talked about the challenges that are happening now in the energy space. But Deepak and Stephen, I'd love to get your opinion on what the kind of challenges are 10 years in the future. In 2031, what will be the big picture energy problems that we might still be working on? Stephen?
Thanks, Heather. A very exciting topic to talk about. So it's amazing just looking back on the last 5 years in terms of how quickly things have been moving. So on a project recently, we were thinking that hydrogen export industries could be something that looks like at 2050 or even international interconnections, so building cables from Australia to Asia to be able to provide them with renewable technology. But these projects are progressing so much faster than any of us would have expected. And so they're looking to get their stage 1 projects up by the middle of this decade, so around 2025, and then looking for massive expansions by 2030. So there could be entirely new industries that students would be able to come into as they're graduating university, or even vacation work positions that high school students could experience along the way in these emerging industries. So that would be my hot tip on the big end, and then on the smaller end, there's also microgrids. And so looking at better leveraging batteries, solar, electric vehicles in our local communities and having community batteries and the likes. So that's also another exciting space.
Brilliant. It's so exciting to see this happening in Australia and see those opportunities. Deepak, what would be your predictions for 10 years in the future? What are the challenges that students today might be working on then?
Yeah, definitely. I would say what Stephen said is going to be the most important and fascinating field is batteries, because the thing is, like, we are slowly moving everything. We want everything portable. So if you see in the market, there are so many things are coming on batteries, and I would say in next and all of the countries, they have, as you already mentioned about the climate change and zero emission technologies. So everybody wants to have all this combustion engine gone, and everybody would like to see the electric vehicles in the future in next 2025 to 2030. Everybody wants to see the electric vehicles on the road. So in terms of electric vehicles, when people talk about the electric vehicles, they always talk about the batteries. But batteries is not the only part is going to be changed in the electric vehicles. We are going to change everything in the electric vehicles. It's not going to be the same combustion engine. So we are not just going to replace the combustion engine and we are not going to put the batteries over there. So it is going to change everything. Let me give you a very nice example, which we are working on recently. So in the combustion engine, so just for example, okay, we don't have that situation in the Brisbane, but just imagine that there are some countries where the temperature goes very, very less, like a cold. Okay, so they need some heaters inside the car, right? So they just need to warm the car from inside. So the combustion engines, what they are doing at the moment is the combustion engine heats itself. So what current technology is, the heat is taken from the combustion engine to heat up the car, the interior of the car. But if we move from the combustion engine to the electric vehicles, that is not going to be the case, because we are going to use the electric motors, and that electric motor doesn't heat up as the combustion engine. So what Tesla did recently, they used the resistive heating technology. So what they did is they just put the heaters inside the electric vehicles, and that heaters are running on the batteries. So that heaters is absolutely, they are almost taking 30% of the power from the batteries. So this is not going to be very good for the electric vehicle, because now if the company is claiming that
taking a third of its power,
exactly, yeah, if it is like, if company claims that, okay, so with single charge this vehicle can go to 500 kilometers, that is not going to be the case in the future, because we will just drain off the energy just to heat the car. So what we are doing currently, we have a project with the Hyundai Motors. So what we are doing is we are developing radiant heating technology. So that is one of the part which is very much interesting for the physics students, but at the same time the engineers. Why? Because we are using some kind of a new technology, which is we are using the radiations to heat the cars, and that kind of radiations needs a very less amount of energy, and we need an engineers to build that kind of technology. So this is the new thing is going to come into the electric vehicles. So when we talk about the electric vehicles, it's not only about the batteries. So there are so many different things, so many different sensors we are going to need, so many different electrical connection or electrical circuitry we are going to need. So this is a huge market, and these are going to be the new challenges. So once we start to move from the combustion engine to electric vehicles, we are going to realize, okay, so this is new problem. So this is new problem. This is new problem. So, and then we are really need to find a solution on that. So this is, I just give you an example, which is just one thing, but yes, we need to develop the new technology in next 5 to 10 years to be implemented into the vehicles.
Fantastic. We're completely reinventing cars. I love it. And Eliza, what are you looking forward to working on in 10 years' time? Where do you see yourself, and what are the kind of challenges you think that you'll be looking at solving in 10 years' time?
I think one challenge with our current energy system is that our network and distribution systems that transport electricity in our homes are decades old and designed to accommodate steady energy. So renewable energy sources aren't always steady and intermittent according to the weather and weather conditions and also the time of the day. So we need to understand how integrating this into the current systems will also impact the management of these distribution networks, and also consider what facilities we need to put in place to efficiently transition to using more sustainable energy. One way to tackle this, of course, is through developing storage systems. So we can dispatch electricity more reliably according to demand to maximize the use of our available renewable energy.
Fantastic. Look, I am so in awe of all of you working on these wicked problems. And I just think it's so fascinating, the diversity of skills that you need to work across all of these different areas. I'd like to thank you all so much for joining us and just telling us even a little bit about your work in future energy today. We will have to hop on and go, but if you are interested in finding out more about this area, you can certainly hop into our job kit on the Future Energy Specialist careers, get more of a sense of what Stephen does in his job, and look at what the salary and job growth possibilities are, the study pathways that you can take, and get real specifics on how you get into this career area. If you are interested in finding out more about studying at QUT, head to qut.edu.au/thinkstem. You'll find a lot of inspiration there, and certainly welcome to also download all of the careers guides that we have for free from our website. Remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel if you're watching via YouTube, and connect with us on any social media platform. And we look forward to joining you for our next webinar. Thanks everybody for joining today.